wherever you may be, however you may be listening. We're live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. So it's crazy. We got all sorts of stuff happening. This is one of these days. Joy Taylor is joining me where it's fluid. We got stuff happening. We got coaching hires and guys leaving and Cleveland Brown fans trying to lecture us that we should take them seriously for finishing third in their division. I've never seen a fan base who's more arrogant that's never accomplished anything. It's incredible.
It's
incredible.
And I've been on Cleveland side all year. So I don't appreciate the pushback.
It's amazing.
Completely blindly supported everything that happened there.
So I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to go through the list right now of what's happened today. Okay? And my guys in the back can just roll tape and do whatever they do. I want to start. Cleveland hired Freddie Kitchens. I'm not a big fan of hiring from within. The last 10 NFL coaches who have been hired from within the organization, 0 for 10, most fired in year 2 or 3. It's not worked one time. You go to the last 20, there's only about 2 guys that have worked. Only 1 guy's ever gotten another contract. So you can look for yourself: Ben McAdoo, Dirk Cutter, Jim Tomsula, Hugh Jackson, Mike Munchak, Jim Caldwell, Jim Mora, Raheem Morris, Bill Callahan, Dave Campo, 0 for 10. So Cleveland, you can lecture us about how it's going to work with you. But by the way, Greg Williams, you let him walk out. Greg Williams is a very good defensive coordinator. He was the actual coach that was 5-3 down the stretch. In his 8 games, he was 5-3, and you let him go. So you didn't even give the coach who was winning the job. You gave a coordinator the job, the less experienced coordinator. My takeaway on this is they wanted to make Baker Mayfield happy. And I've said this before. There are organizations, the New York Mets, the Buffalo Bills, the Cleveland Browns, that losing organizations have low sports self-esteem. And the minute they have any little inkling of success, they just can't let it go. And so they're attributing all their success to Freddie Kitchens. And I think he was part of their success, but the bigger part was John Dorsey put together a nice roster full of good players. Greg Williams is a strong leader, not my cup of tea all the time, but a strong, defiant guy. And Baker Mayfield, frankly, played real well with Freddie Kitchens. So I don't buy it. By the way, everybody lectured me that this was the job everybody wanted, and the 2 finalists were Freddie Kitchens and some 44-year-old guy from Minnesota who's never been a coordinator. So where are all the great coaches lining up for this job? I kept being lectured this was the best job in the world, and I'm like, your 2 finalists were 2 guys who have never been hired as coordinators, who have never been head coaches in high school. Nick Wright was on the show earlier, and he says it's not Baker's fault that the great coaches didn't want this job.
Jimmy Haslam is not a guy that I think you can trust whether you're going to one of his gas stations or whether you want to coach his football team. I didn't look at this as an indictment on Baker Mayfield. I looked at this as a lot of teams or a lot of coaches saying, man, is this more than a 2-year window because of who the owner of the team is?
I think that's very fair. I do worry, and I've said this before, I love football. The league is much better when quarterback play is good. I think the worst thing you can do to a young quarterback who is learning how to be an NFL quarterback is to give him a coach who is learning how to be a head coach. Freddie Kitchens has never been a high school coach, head coach. So Freddie Kitchens is going to learn on the fly how to be an NFL head coach. Baker Mayfield's also learning how to be an NFL franchise quarterback. I don't like that combination. The second hiring, this is a grown-up hire. Tampa Bay hired Bruce Arians. And Bruce Arians reportedly is going to hire Todd Bowles. These are grown-ups. So Bruce Arians has been a head coach. Todd Bowles now as coordinator has been a head coach. I got 10 years of head coaching experience. So these guys aren't figuring out, how do we do this with the staff? How do we do that with the staff? Tampa Bay hired guys who have been coaches. And I know it's really cool to think that the old guys don't know what they're doing. Hire a young guy. Excuse me, but 7 of the 8 remaining coaches are 50 and older. Yeah. So Bruce Arians is a real coach. He's coached Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, Big Ben, and Peyton Manning. And he's not going to be learning how to be a coach on the fly. I like the move by Tampa. That leads me to Denver, reportedly about to hire Vic Fangio, who's been in the league for like 35 years. He's one of the Dave Wannstedt, who I work with, has told me for years. He's like, that guy knows what he's doing. His defense is rock solid. He understands personnel. He will now go. He doesn't look as old as they say he is. He's going to go and take over Denver, which has two great pass rushers, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. They got nice defensive personnel. He's also got a keen sense of young defensive personnel, so he'll have a say in the draft. So I like this, and he's going to bring Gary Kubiak on as his offensive coordinator. So Gary Kubiak has been a head coach many times. So again, this is grown-ups. This is not like learning how to coach on the job. This is a man. This is an adult. Taking over a team that has a history of winning and solid ownership. So I like that move by Denver. Let's go to two combination hires. Arizona hires Cliff Kingsbury, who was 4-31 against Big 12 teams that were ranked while he was at Texas Tech. Not great at all. And then also Green Bay hired Matt LaFleur, who I was told last night from somebody who has coached with him. Very smart, driven, offensive-minded guy, doesn't have leadership skills, which is, by the way, what I told you 2 days ago, confirmed by an NFL coach. He's not great in the room. Good luck with Aaron Rodgers, who demands respect, and you have to command it, and it's not your strength. Kingsbury to Arizona and Matt LaFleur, to me, are incredibly risky hires. Wow. Really, really risky hires. And finally, and I don't know Cliff, and I think he knows offense. But, folks, if you take out Kansas, I mean, listen, he was 19-1 against Kansas and, like, FCS schools. Those were most of his wins. He couldn't go toe-to-toe with a conference. And now he's going to take over an NFL franchise. Wow, that is a big leap. Matt LaFleur, been a coordinator 1 year, and Tennessee got worse with him offensively. Wow. So I don't like those hires. Don't love them. Could be wrong. Finally, the New York Jets are going to hire one of two people. I like both, Mike McCarthy or Adam Gase. Again, they're not, as Sam Darnold is learning how to be an NFL quarterback, Mike McCarthy and Adam Gase are not simultaneously learning how to be head coaches. So I'd take either of them. I'd probably choose McCarthy over Adam Gase, but I will say this about Adam Gase. You go look at his record with Ryan Tannehill, who I think is not nearly as talented as Sam Darnold. Wasn't terrible. That's a dysfunctional organization. Ryan Tannehill's 23rd best quarterback in the league, and they won a lot of games. They beat New England regularly, and it's like Adam Gase can coach. So, in review, Freddie Kitchens, I don't think it's going to be a rousing success. Bruce Arians and Vic Fangio, I like. I'm not saying teams are winning the Super Bowl, but I like the stability of it. Cliff Kingsbury and Matt LaFleur, I don't think that's going to work out great. Again, some of these may work initially. You may get an initial pop, but does it work for 4 and 5 years? And Mike McCarthy or Adam Gase to the Jets. Mike McCarthy would be my first choice. I think it would be excellent. Matt Rule's in play for them. That's a Baylor head coach. Don't like that as much. But again, this is the world we live in, where everybody's, it's so funny in life. People use the exception instead of the rule. And I push back on this stuff all the time. I just don't buy in to, I work in this business of opinions. If you take the top 30 people in America, political and sports opinionists, none are in their 20s and 30s. Everybody's trying to tell me, you got to listen to this young guy or this young girl or this young voice. And I'm like, I look around TV sets and it's mostly 40-year-olds. It's Rachel Maddow. It's, it's Sean Hannity. It's big opinion people. It's Rush Limbaugh over here. And we are always trying to tell me and lecture me that the 27-year-old hot candidate in business is going to take over the world, and then all I keep doing is looking at the world, and it's run by people in their 40s and 50s and older.
Well, I don't think it's so much about age as it is about experience.
Well, it's hard to be experienced at 27.
Sure, but some people, like you talked about, Sean McVay, has a very unique upbringing where he's been around football in a very close setting for his entire life. So he has an advantage, even though he is only 31 years old or 32 years old.
Right.
Because he has maybe even more experience than some of these older guys.
But he has an incredibly unique...
but that's the point.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to replicate a unique situation.
And they can't.
Rather than looking at every factor that has created Sean McVay into what he is. But maybe he also just has a rare genius.
Yeah, no, I think he does. And by the way, Sean McVay, do we have the bite about that? It's funny. Everybody's trying to replicate Sean McVay, and yet...
And he's warning you not to do that.
And Sean McVay is warning everybody that it's nonsense. Here's Sean McVay about hiring young guys because they know him.
I'm too young to have a coaching tree. I think it would be naive to think that any of this is about one person. That certainly isn't the case at all. And I think if the last 2 years have taught me anything being in this role, it's about you better surround yourself with a lot of people that are better than you so that you can learn every day. It's flattering, though, for our organization.
Yeah, so he's telling you it's a bunch of hooey, and everybody's like, He has a unique childhood experience because his granddad helped build the 49ers, and he was 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, reading stuff at home from the family. Then he was a 22-year-old coach. His IQ, football IQ, he's a savant. You can't replicate that. That's why Bill Belichick's coaching tree is not very good, because Bill Belichick's dad invented scouting and his mom spoke 7 languages. You can't replicate IQ.
Sean McVay has a lot of self-awareness, but it was a really nice way of saying they ain't me.
Yeah.
That's really what he said.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, Casey Hayward of the LA Chargers, are they the craziest story ever?
Yeah.
They are not just better, they're a significantly better road team, and they're on the road this week to face Tom Brady, than they are a home team. And it's probably the best secondary in the NFL. Derwin James, Pro Bowl. Casey Hayward's done it before. Desmond King. So they're going to New England to face Tom Brady, and Casey Hayward, their talented cornerback, will be joining us next. Don't let your age beat you. It's time to re-find your prime. How about a daily supplement? Like